When Travis Alexander first met Jodi Arias, he wasn't looking for a whirlwind romance. He was just another energetic young man chasing success, laughter, and connection. It was September 2006, a crowded business conference in Las Vegas, filled with dreamers and hustlers trying to make their mark. Travis was that type of man who drew people in easily, confident, sharp, and deeply rooted in his faith. His friends admired his charm, and women noticed his clean-cut looks and charisma. But among all the faces that weekend, one woman stood out, Jodi Arias. She wasn't from his world of suits and sales pitches. She had a free-spirited edge, camera in hand, bright smile, soft voice. When their eyes met for the first time, it was like two completely different lives suddenly collided. They spoke for hours that night about ambition, love, and finding purpose. She laughed at his jokes. He admired her curiosity. Before the night ended, they were already making plans to see each other again. It was quick, spontaneous, and intense. For Jodi, Travis represented something she'd always wanted: stability, direction, and the kind of man who made her feel seen. For Travis, she was excitement wrapped in mystery, a sudden burst of adventure in his structured life. They exchanged numbers, and what started as late-night calls soon turned into something more. Within weeks, they were inseparable, always texting, always talking, always together. Travis introduced her to his close circle, and everyone could tell she was smitten. But some friends noticed how intense she seemed. She didn't just like Travis, she studied him. The way he spoke, his routines, the words he used. It was as if she wanted to mold herself into his perfect match. Still, to Travis, it felt flattering. Who doesn't want to be adored that much? He brushed off his friend's quiet concerns. "She's just passionate," he'd say with a grin. Weeks became months. Jodi's visits grew more frequent. Long drives from California to Arizona, hours spent together taking pictures, sharing dinners, and posting couple photos that looked perfect on the outside. But behind the smiles, little cracks began to form. Travis started noticing that their connection, once light and exciting, was becoming heavy. Jodi wanted more than affection. She wanted control. She needed to know where he was, who he talked to, what he was doing. Still, she could be sweet, affectionate, and loving. And every time he thought about ending things, she'd pull him back in with a laugh, a memory, or a promise to change. To his friends, Travis would joke about her intensity. But privately, he began feeling uneasy, like he was being watched even when she wasn't around. Yet somehow, he couldn't stay away. There was something about her, that mix of charm and unpredictability, that kept him hooked. He told himself it was love, maybe even destiny. And for a while, that's what it felt like. Two souls caught up in a story that felt almost cinematic, but in quiet moments, when Jodi's messages piled up on his phone or her sudden appearances caught him off guard, a strange thought began to creep into his mind. Was this love or something else entirely? That question would come to define everything that followed. And that's just the beginning. From romance to something far more controlling. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time, because the next part will show just how quickly love can turn into obsession. Part 2, When Love Turns Uneasy. For a while, things between Jodi and Travis seemed picture perfect. The photos told one story: beach trips, smiles, matching outfits. But the truth behind those smiles was shifting, quietly, like a shadow stretching across their relationship. At first, Travis thought it was normal. Every couple has their ups and downs. But slowly, Jodi's texts started coming more often. "Where are you? Who are you with? Why didn't you pick up?" If he didn't respond right away, another message would follow, then another, then another. What used to be sweet concern started to sound like interrogation. Travis's friends noticed the difference too. When Jodi wasn't around, he seemed lighter, more like himself, joking, laughing, full of life. But the moment her name came up, he grew quieter, guarded. Still, he never badmouthed her. He just sighed and said, "She's intense." Jodi, on the other hand, saw Travis as her entire world. She wanted to be everything he wanted: the perfect girlfriend, the perfect partner, the perfect soulmate. But Travis wasn't ready to settle down. He was focused on his career, on self-improvement, on his faith. And when he started pulling back, Jodi panicked. In her mind, distance meant danger, danger of losing him, and she couldn't let that happen. So she started driving hundreds of miles from California to Arizona, unannounced. Sometimes she'd show up smiling, saying she just wanted to surprise him. Other times she'd be quiet, eyes searching his face for signs he'd been with someone else. Travis didn't know how to react. He cared for her, but this was getting strange. Once a friend walked into his house and found Jodi sitting on his couch, even though Travis wasn't home. She said she had a key. There were rumors, too, of Jodi listening outside his room, reading his messages, following him to events. But whenever he tried to end things, she'd break down in tears, promising to change. And each time, Travis gave in, because deep down, he didn't want to hurt her. And maybe, just maybe, he still hoped the girl he met that night in Las Vegas was still in there somewhere. But Jodi was changing, and the changes weren't small. Her moods became unpredictable. One day she'd be warm and affectionate, cooking dinner, laughing, taking selfies. The next day she'd be furious over a single text message he forgot to answer. Sometimes she'd vanish for days, then reappear as if nothing happened. Travis began confiding in his close friends. "She scares me a little," he admitted one night. It wasn't something he said lightly. This was a man who had fought through hardship, grown up in chaos, and built his life from the ground up. But now it felt like he was living in a maze he couldn't escape. The final straw came when he started dating other women. Jodi found out, and the floodgates opened. Calls, messages, angry rants, apologies, more messages. At one point, she even slashed his car tires. Another time, someone hacked his MySpace page, and friends suspected Jodi. Still, she kept showing up, smiling, acting like everything was fine. Travis's friends told him, "You have to cut her off for good." He tried. He really did. But somehow she always found her way back. It wasn't love anymore. It was something else, something darker. And though Travis didn't know it yet, that darkness was just getting started. In the quiet nights that followed, when his phone buzzed with her name again and again, he began to feel it deep inside, that this wasn't going to end peacefully. But love, or what he thought was love, can make people ignore the warning signs. And by the time he realized just how far Jodi was willing to go, it would already be too late. And that's where things start to spiral. Jodi's obsession crosses the line, and Travis begins to fear for his safety. The breaking point. By early 2008, Travis Alexander's once bright life had become complicated. His career was rising, his friendship strong, yet his nights were filled with unease. Because no matter how many times he tried to move on, Jodi Arias was always there. It began subtly. A text when he least expected, a missed call at 2 a.m., a car parked across the street that looked just a little too familiar. Travis started to feel watched. And the thing about being watched is, you can't ever fully prove it, but you feel it. That heavy presence, that sense that someone knows where you are, what you're doing, who you're with. He'd see her at church events even though she wasn't part of his congregation anymore. Once, he opened his laptop and found new photos that he didn't take. Another time, a friend caught Jodi peeking through the window of his house. When confronted, she smiled and said she was just checking if he was home. But the scariest part? Whenever he called her out on it, she acted calm, innocent, confused, almost like he was the one imagining things. That's when the gaslighting began. Jodi knew exactly how to twist every word, every situation. She'd cry, apologize, promise it was over, then do it again. Each time she'd say, "I can't live without you, Travis." And each time he'd believe, maybe for a moment, that she meant it. But deep down, something inside him was breaking. He couldn't trust her, but he couldn't completely walk away either. Because when Jodi wasn't angry, she was magnetic. She'd show up uninvited, cook dinner, draw him in again. And for a few hours, everything felt normal until it didn't. Then came the phone calls. Hundreds of them. One after another. If he didn't answer, she'd leave long voicemails, whispering, apologizing, sometimes laughing, sometimes crying. It was like listening to different people each time. Travis started confiding in friends again. He admitted she'd even gone through his phone, hacked into his email, and once snuck into his house through the doggy door. He woke up that night to see her sitting by his bed, quietly watching him sleep. That was the night he told a friend, "I'm scared of what she might do." Still, despite all this, Travis didn't want to destroy her reputation. He was a good man, maybe too good. He didn't call the police. He didn't tell his colleagues. He just tried to keep his distance. But to Jodi, distance was rejection, and rejection was unforgivable. She became determined to win him back, no matter what it took. She changed her hair color, pretended to be new Jodi. She even started acting more religious again, trying to appeal to the man he used to be. Travis, ever the optimist, gave her another chance, but this time it didn't feel right. There was something behind her smile now, something calculated. She wasn't the same woman he met years ago. She was someone else entirely. By May 2008, Travis had finally decided to attend a company retreat in Cancun with another woman. He was moving on. Friends said he looked happier than he had in months. But Jodi found out. She saw the photos online. The jealousy boiled over. And from that moment, she started planning something final. In the weeks that followed, she bought a gun. She rented a car. She turned off her phone. She told friends she was going on a road trip, but she never said where. And as Travis was busy preparing for his trip to Cancun, laughing with friends, finally breathing again, he had no idea that the woman he had once loved was driving hundreds of miles toward his home with a plan that would make his name echo in true crime history forever. Part 4. The Last Visit. It was June 4th, 2008. A warm, quiet day in Mesa, Arizona, the kind where the air feels heavy with secrets. And for Travis Alexander, it was supposed to be just another ordinary day. But it would become the last day of his life. Jodi Arias had been on the road for hours. She told friends she was heading to Utah to meet another man, Ryan Burns, for a work event. But secretly, she took a long detour, straight to Travis's house. Surveillance cameras captured her car heading south. Her phone turned off. Her excuses later? Oh, I forgot to charge it. But detectives would later note, Jodi Arias never forgot things. When she arrived at Travis's home, it was early evening. The neighbors remembered seeing her car in the driveway. Travis, being the kind-hearted man he was, probably thought, maybe she just wants to talk. Maybe she's finally moving on. But Jodi wasn't there to talk. She was there with a .25 caliber handgun and a knife. Hours before the attack, things appeared normal. They ate together, took photos, and even shared intimate moments. Those final photos, taken with Travis's new camera, would later become the most chilling pieces of evidence in the entire case. At first glance, they looked innocent. Two people smiling. Two people who once loved each other. But when investigators checked the timestamp, they realized something terrifying. Just minutes later, Travis was dead. At 5:30 p.m., the photos changed. No more smiles. The next image, blurry. Travis on the floor. Blood beginning to pool. Another image, his body dragged. And one final accidental shot, a foot, possibly Jodi's, standing near his body. The attack was brutal. A stab wound to the chest. Then the neck, slit from ear to ear. Finally, a gunshot to the head. Travis had fought hard. Defensive wounds covered his hands, but it was no use. He never stood a chance. After the murder, Jodi didn't panic. She calmly showered, deleted photos from the camera, washed the blood from her hands, and even threw the camera into the washing machine, hoping to destroy the evidence. But she made mistakes. Big ones. A bloody handprint on the wall. It was hers. Hair strands left behind, hers too. And the camera she tried to destroy? Detectives recovered every photo. Every single one. She left Travis's home around midnight. Drove through the night. A few hours later, she was laughing, flirting, and acting normal with Ryan Burns in Utah. No signs of remorse. No cracks in her story, yet. But back in Mesa, friends grew worried. Travis hadn't shown up for a business trip. Calls went unanswered. Days passed. And when his friends finally entered his home on June 9th, the smell of death hit them immediately. They followed the trail through the hallway to the bathroom, and what they saw, no one should ever see. Travis Alexander, lifeless in the shower, covered in blood. The crime scene looked like a war zone. Detectives arrived quickly. The moment they saw the state of the body, they knew this wasn't a robbery. It was personal. Too personal. The killer wanted him to suffer, and when they found that single, small camera in the washing machine, they knew this case was about to break wide open. But who could have done it? Who hated Travis enough to stab him 27 times, to shoot him and leave him in such a horrific state? The answer would shock everyone, because when detectives looked at the photos and enhanced them, they saw something unmistakable: a woman's hand, her jewelry, her hair. It was Jodi Arias. But how would Jodi explain it? Would she confess, or try to twist the truth into something darker? You'll find out in Part 5, The Lies, the Camera, the Interrogation. Before we continue, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because this story is just getting started. Part 5, The Lies, the Camera, the Interrogation. When Travis Alexander's body was found, police had no suspects, not officially. But deep down, every detective in that room had the same name in mind: Jodi Arias. She had history with the victim. She had motive: jealousy, heartbreak, obsession, and now they had evidence tying her to the scene. A bloody palm print, a strand of hair, and those eerie photos showing her just minutes before Travis was murdered. Still, Jodi wasn't ready to face the truth. When detectives first reached out, she acted calm, polite, and cooperative. Almost too cooperative. She said she had no idea what happened to Travis, that she hadn't seen him in weeks, and that she was heartbroken to hear of his death. But the evidence said otherwise. Her cell phone showed she'd been near Arizona that same week. Her rental car was missing floor mats, replaced with fresh ones, and there were stains on the seat that looked suspiciously like blood. Still, Jodi smiled through every question. "I'd never hurt Travis," she said. "He was my best friend." Then came the moment detectives called her bluff. They placed a stack of photographs on the table, photos recovered from the water-damaged camera. First, Jodi's smiling face. Then her with Travis, alive, naked, vulnerable. And then the next frame, Travis's bleeding body on the bathroom floor. Jodi froze. Her confident tone disappeared. And for a long, heavy moment, she said nothing. Then, almost whispering, "That's not possible." Her voice cracked, eyes darting back and forth as she searched for words. Detectives pressed harder. They told her, "You were there, Jodi. The timestamps prove it. Your blood is mixed with his. There's no other explanation." That's when her lies began to unravel. At first, she blamed intruders. Two masked people, she said, had broken into Travis's house. They killed him and let her go. "I was too scared to tell anyone," she whispered. But detectives didn't buy it. No sign of forced entry, no stolen items, no footprints, except hers. When she realized the story wasn't working, she shifted again. This time, she said it was self-defense, that Travis had attacked her first, that she had no choice but to fight back. But the wounds on his body told a different story. He was stabbed 27 times, long after he was already weak. That wasn't defense. That was rage. During one of the interrogations, Jodi did something eerie. Left alone in the room, she began singing Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen. Her voice soft, calm, like she wasn't in a murder investigation, but a rehearsal. Then she sat on the floor doing handstands, fixing her hair, even smiling at the camera. It was like watching someone live in an alternate reality, detached from everything that just happened. Detectives later said they'd never seen anything like it. One minute, she was crying about how much she missed Travis. The next, she was calmly asking if she could clean herself up before the mugshot. Cold, calculated, controlled. As evidence piled up, the district attorney made a decision. They were going to charge Jodi Arias with first-degree murder, and they'd seek the death penalty. Because what she did in their eyes was not just a crime of passion. It was planned, premeditated, and vicious beyond reason. But here's where it got even more twisted. As the news broke, Jodi gave her first TV interview from jail. Looking directly into the camera, she said, "No jury will ever convict me." Then she smiled and added, "Because I'm innocent." That single moment went viral across America. People were stunned by her confidence, her tone, and her complete lack of remorse. It turned her into a household name. Some saw her as a manipulative monster, others as a deeply broken woman who lost control. But everyone agreed on one thing: this was no ordinary case. The Jodi Arias trial would become one of the most watched, most talked about trials in modern U.S. history, and the courtroom scenes that followed would reveal just how far she'd go to twist the truth. Part 6. The Trial and the Verdict. The courtroom was packed. Every camera pointed at one woman, Jodi Arias. She looked calm, composed, her hair neatly brushed, makeup perfectly done. It was almost easy to forget what she was accused of. Almost, because seated just a few feet away were Travis Alexander's family, their faces tight with anger and pain. They wanted justice, not sympathy, and as the trial began, they would hear things no family should ever have to hear. The prosecution came in hard. They told the jury this was not a crime of passion. It was a calculated execution. They said Jodi planned it for weeks, renting a car, buying gas cans so she wouldn't have to stop, turning off her phone and bringing a gun. Every move was deliberate, every choice cold. The prosecutor showed the jury the photos, images taken just before Travis died. They showed Jodi's calm face in one frame and Travis's lifeless body in the next. Then they played the 911 call, where a friend broke down describing what he'd seen. It was almost unbearable. But Jodi's defense had a different story. They painted Travis as abusive, mentally, emotionally, even physically. They said Jodi was a victim, trapped in a toxic relationship, that she'd been pushed to the edge, and when Travis attacked her, she fought back in panic. Self-defense, they said. Pure survival. Then Jodi took the stand herself. It was a risky move, but she was confident. For 18 days, she testified, calm, articulate, and sometimes even smiling. She told the jury she loved Travis, that she never meant to kill him. But every time she spoke, her story seemed to change. The timelines didn't match. The details shifted, and the jury began to see through her. At one point, the prosecutor asked directly, "Jodi, do you think we should believe you today after you've lied so many times before?" She looked straight at him and said, "Yes, because I'm telling the truth now." The courtroom went silent. That moment defined her, confident, detached, and disconnected from reality. As the weeks passed, the media turned the trial into a spectacle. Talk shows, podcasts, news networks, everyone had an opinion. Some called her evil, others called her misunderstood. But deep down, the world wanted one answer. Why? Why did Jodi Arias kill Travis Alexander, the man she claimed to love? Was it jealousy, rejection, rage, or something darker, an obsession that couldn't accept it's over? When closing arguments began, the prosecutor's voice thundered through the courtroom. "This was no accident," he said. "She didn't just lose control. She made choice after choice, and every one of them led to murder." Then came the waiting. 5 days of silence, 5 days of anxiety, until finally the jury returned. The foreman stood. Everyone held their breath. The verdict, guilty. First-degree murder. A gasp swept the room. Travis's family cried quietly. Jodi sat still, her face pale, eyes empty. She showed no tears, no panic, just silence. And then, as reporters surrounded her lawyers, she whispered, "I'd rather get death than spend life in prison." But the story didn't turn into another emotional storm. The jury couldn't agree on the death penalty. It ended in a mistrial, not once, but twice. Eventually, the judge made the final decision: life in prison without parole. Even after the verdict, Jodi continued to give interviews. From behind bars, she smiled at cameras, saying she was at peace. She painted, she gave phone calls, she even tried to sell her artwork online. To many, it was proof that she still didn't understand the weight of what she'd done. Travis's family, on the other hand, never healed fully. They said justice was served, but the pain never left. Their brother, their son, their friend was gone forever. Years later, the Jodi Arias story remains one of the most haunting crime cases in American history. A case that blurred the line between love and control, between passion and obsession, and a story that forces us to ask, when love turns into possession, what's left of the human heart? If you followed this story to the end, don't forget to subscribe, because in the world of true crime, there's always another story hiding in the dark, and sometimes it's closer than you think.